A government shutdown in the United States represents a functional failure of the legislative and executive branches to fulfill their basic constitutional duty, funding the federal government. It is triggered when Congress fails to pass the 12 annual appropriations bills, or a temporary measure known as a continuing resolution (CR), before the current fiscal year ends on September 30th. Legally, this inaction invokes the 1884 Anti-Deficiency Act, which prohibits federal agencies from obligating or spending money without prior congressional approval. Consequently, all non-essential government functions must cease operations immediately. Summary and analysis. The shutdown mechanism is unique to the US system. In most parliamentary democracies, a failure to pass a budget constitutes a vote of no confidence, typically leading to the resignation of the government or a new election. In the US, however, it leads to a costly administrative pause. The distinction between essential and non-essential services is critical. Essential services, defined as those necessary for national security, public safety, or the protection of life and property, continue operation. This includes active duty military, border control, air traffic control, and federal law enforcement. Non-essential services, ranging from routine food safety inspections and processing of veterans' benefits to operating national parks and providing many public health services, are halted. The determination of which employees are furloughed, sent home without pay, and which are accepted, required to work without immediate pay, is determined by the contingency plans of each agency. Reasons and causes for shutdowns. Shutdowns are fundamentally political, driven by deep partisan divisions and the strategic use of funding deadlines as legislative leverage. Budget disagreements. The most direct cause is a failure to agree on the levels of discretionary spending, which funds about 1/3 of the federal government. This involves disputes over specific agency budgets, military spending, or funding for new programs. Using spending bills as policy leverage. Modern shutdowns often occur because lawmakers attach contentious policy demands to must-pass funding bills. Examples include demands for border wall funding, changes to healthcare subsidies, or other ideological riders. Since appropriations bills must pass both chambers of a polarized Congress and be signed by the President, one determined faction, even a minority, can hold the entire process hostage to achieve unrelated political goals. Partisan polarization. Increasing ideological rigidity means there is less willingness among members of Congress to compromise. With narrow majorities often controlling the House and Senate, the incentive to appease the party base outweighs the imperative to govern smoothly. Consequences and impacts. The impacts of a government shutdown ripple far beyond the immediate closure of government offices. Impact on federal workers and families. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees face immediate financial insecurity. Furloughed workers are placed on unpaid leave, while essential personnel must work without a paycheck. While Congress historically votes to provide back pay to furloughed employees once the shutdown ends, this lag causes severe financial strain, requiring workers to rely on savings, emergency assistance, or loans to cover basic expenses like rent and mortgages. Economic cost. Shutdowns are not cost-saving measures. They are economically damaging. The Congressional Budget Office, CBO, estimated that the 2018-2019 shutdown reduced the gross domestic product, GDP, by billions of dollars, with a portion of that loss being permanent. Disruption occurs as federal contracts are frozen, small business loans, SBA, are delayed, and the release of crucial economic data, like unemployment figures, is postponed, creating market uncertainty. Disruption of public services. Non-essential services stop immediately. National parks are often left unstaffed, leading to sanitation and safety issues. Passport and visa processing slows significantly. Critical food and drug inspections by agencies like the FDA can be suspended, posing public health risks. Furthermore, delays in processing applications for benefits like housing assistance or disability claims harm vulnerable populations. Prediction and solutions. Prediction. Outlook. Given the current environment of high political polarization, the narrow majorities in Congress, and the effectiveness of using shutdown threats as a negotiating tactic, the likelihood of future funding impasses remains high. Shutdowns have become a normalized feature of the political landscape. Most are resolved with short-term continuing resolutions, CRs, which simply push the funding deadline a few weeks or months into the future without resolving the core disagreements, virtually guaranteeing another crisis. Solutions mitigation. Several proposals exist to mitigate or eliminate the threat of shutdowns. Automatic continuing resolution, auto-CR. A key structural solution is a law that automatically implements a short-term CR at current spending levels if the appropriations process misses the deadline. This would remove the cliff-edge threat of a shutdown, forcing lawmakers to negotiate a long-term budget without the pressure of immediately harming public services. Biennial budgeting. Shifting the federal budget process to a 2-year cycle. Biennial would halve the frequency of these high-stakes deadlines, allowing Congress to dedicate the off-year to oversight and longer-term planning. Clean appropriations. Enforcing stricter rules to separate appropriations bills from unrelated policy riders would prevent lawmakers from using funding as leverage for contentious, non-budgetary issues. In conclusion, the government shutdown is a self-inflicted wound, rooted in political strategy and enabled by outdated budget mechanics. While essential services continue, the ensuing economic damage and disruption to millions of Americans underscore the need for structural reforms to restore functional governance.